Welcome to Destination Fulfillment. And today we're going to be talking about how overnight success is really more like a 10-year journey in the making. Are you excited?
I'm excited.
All right, let's get into it. So welcome back to Destination Fulfillment, where we really talk about life coaching for business owners, particularly those blue-collar workers of America.
Mm-hmm. The ones that are kind of the backbone of the U.S., holding down the hard, laborious jobs, working with your hands, not necessarily sitting pretty in a white-collar office.
Taking the time to learn those hard skills and build up that knowledge that very few people even know. The blacksmiths, the carpenters, the electricians, all these jobs that require skills to be learned after you graduate high school. Not a college degree, but other hard skills that are very tricky to learn. Oftentimes you have to go to a trade school, be an apprentice of some sort. We are here for you, the blue-collar workers of America. And we know that becoming successful in your industry, if you own your own business, it is the number one goal. You want to be successful. But we got to ask ourselves, how do you define success?
Do you define success differently for yourself versus for someone else?
And that's a great point, actually, because most of us think of success differently when we're talking about our own personal journey through business and through life versus what we see of other people. Mm-hmm. When we think about success for others, what do you often think about as a marker for success?
A lot of it for me is like what I perceive. So sometimes, especially with social media, it's really hard because I have friends who work for really big Fortune 100 companies and they'll post to Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or whatever, and they're on red carpets, they're walking down with, talking to really famous people. I'm like, whoa, that's success right there. I'm not there. I'm not I'm not shaking hands with Beyonce or whomever, right?
Definitely.
So to me, that is a marker for success for other people that I see from other people. Sometimes it's like what brand clothing they're wearing or how much money I'm assuming that they make.
Right. It's the money, and it's the material objects. It's what we see, who they know, etc. But realistically, some of the most wealthiest people and successful people keep themselves out of the limelight. In fact, we're not seeing them on social media. We're not seeing them flaunt around their success with money and materialistic things. Now, those are all good and fine, and we obviously need money to survive in this world.
Yeah.
But if you start thinking about success in your own mind, what do you think it means to be successful?
For myself, well, it's kind of, the celebrity thing is kind of funny because I am like the last person to give two craps about being famous or knowing famous people. So, I look at other people and say, oh, that's success for them, but for me, that wouldn't be a marker of success. For me, a marker of success would probably be buying my dream home and being able to travel the world and have enough money to do that very comfortably. Seeing my friends and family, maybe treating them to travel or other things.
So you can see how it's very polarizing when we think about someone else and what we see and how we judge them for whether or not they are successful. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying we're judging them in a negative sense, but we're taking what we can see and observe on the outside, and we're making a judgment on whether or not we think of them as a successful individual. But then when we talk about ourselves and what is ultimately going to be what we consider successful, it's a very different thing. Mm-hmm. And it's really interesting because if you talk to those people and ask them what does success mean to them, the other person probably has an answer very similar to yours. It's they wanted to, what got them excited about making money and excited about business is what they can do with some of that money and that success. And oftentimes it's, I wanted to do this so that my mom was always big there for me, and I wanted to allow her to have her first new car. She's never had a brand new car, and I wanted to be able to make enough money to where I could buy my mom a brand new car. Or I wanted to buy my parents a house that they could retire in comfortably. And it's something like that. It's doing things for the people that we love, and that's what is the marker of success for them.
So
similar to ours.
Right. So what I'm hearing is your definition of success is deeply personal to you. It's not a title, it's not a salary, it's not an association with a certain person, but it's really what your personal goals and what you want to do with that salary or with that title or with that association.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we think about it, we all want to be successful, and when we start a business of our own, what we currently are talking about when we say this is how we define success, being able to treat family members, to be able to take time off of work and know that I comfortably have the financial means to travel and enjoy myself without being stressed about getting back to work. And that's usually our why when we start getting into business, and we quickly start to lose focus of that. I think many people start looking at dollar figures and numbers, and this is what it's going to take. I have to hit 6 figures in 6 months or I'm a failure. And you don't realize that all the things that you accomplish along the way to get to that financial goal point. The fact that you could say, I launched my very first business. I hired my very first employee. I sold my first $10,000 in product in a single month. All of these are successful milestones, and you could easily say that makes you successful. You've tried something new for the first time and you've accomplished it, or you didn't accomplish it and you learned a valuable lesson and you got back up and you started over and with new knowledge in order to be successful. So I know I said in the intro that we're going to talk about overnight success and and how it's really more like a 10-year journey. And we wanted to kind of define what success is and what it means for you, because that's what you really have to have at the heart of it. You have to keep your why in mind, and you have to keep that at the forethought, because as soon as things start to get tough, as soon as you start to struggle and waver and have self-doubts, and not only self-doubts but just doubts on maybe your industry and the ability to be successful, if you don't keep that why in mind, that goal for your family, for yourself, for your travel, the things that you want to do with the money, that's when you're going to begin to make excuses and decide giving up might be the better way to go. Let me tell you right now, it is not.
Yeah, it can be really easy to quit if you forget what your definition of success is and try to start living to other people's definition of success.
Exactly. When you start focusing on the money and making the money the only goal, the only marker for success, you will find an excuse to say, well, I can make money doing this instead. It's not all about the money. It's about doing something that you love to do, something that you are passionate about, and having a goal for those financial gains that you can do with it. The thing you do with the money you make is your goal, is what your mark of success is, not the money. The money is the means. So keep your goals in mind. That way you can be successful, because like I said, if you just keep the money in mind, there's a billion different ways to make money out there. And if you start focusing solely on the money, if it doesn't happen for you right away, you're immediately going to start thinking about an escape route and how you can make money in a different way. The money cannot be your goal. Your goal, the money is the means to achieving your goals. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you feel right?
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
All right, great. So like Janine kind of hinted at, you can't compare yourself to others, and you can't compete with others. Everybody has an opportunity, and even if you have the exact same type of business as the guy down the street, you can't compete with yourself. You can't compete with others. You can only be competing with yourself, and where you were yesterday, last week, last year, you have to be building on your success.
And I feel like, especially coming from a corporate world, that this is not a new concept for business owners and small business owners particularly, but it's a growing concept that is becoming more and more popular, and it's this concept of community over competition. So if I own a plumbing company and you own a plumbing company, we're not competitors because maybe I offer a service that one of your current customers needs that you don't offer. So you could send that person over to me, and if I have someone that you can service better than I can send that person over to you. That's community over competition. There's enough money to go around. There's enough customers to go around that we can both be successful in our own definitive way.
I completely agree with you. And and don't worry about someone else's success level and someone else's business. Even if they started their business in the same industry after you don't know what resources they went into it. They may have had, some sort of advantage with a family member helping them out, a silent partner you don't even know about, and if it looks to you like they're becoming more successful faster than you are, that is okay. You don't have to worry about where someone else is on their journey. You only have to worry about you, yourself, and I. Or me, myself, and I. You have to worry about your journey to continue to try and be better than the person you were before. Like I said, you're setting your goals for this week based on what you accomplished last week. You want to up your game all the time. Become a constant being of evolution.
And kind of in that same sphere, like the only curtain you can see behind is your own. So you don't know what's going on behind someone else's curtain. You don't know what their success or not success. I'm going to struggle with that word again.
You always do.
What their success or struggle to become successful looks like. You can only compete with yourself and where you were yesterday.
Yeah, and if you continue to just try and beat your own personal best, your own records, and keep track of this, work on beating your own personal records for things, and believe it or not, soon enough, those personal records that you're beating are going to become the world record. They're going to become the world record setting for whatever your thing is in your area, and you don't have to worry about anybody else. If you're only competing with yourself, you are going to be just fine. Keep making yourself better.
For example, I'm not a fan of this man, but Jeff Bezos didn't become the richest man in the world by wondering what Walmart was doing. He just went and competed with himself day after day after day after day, and here we are.
Yeah, and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, he mentions on his Instagram a lot. He posts amazingly motivating content there about his workouts, about what he's doing. I mean, he has like 5 different businesses easily that he's working with at any given time, and others that he's simply an investing silent partner in. And he will easily tell you that, like, when you're at the top, the only competition is you. So if you are constantly worried about what other people are doing and you're competing with other people, you know, you're really losing out on growing as your own individual, because eventually you do get to the top and there is only yourself to compete with. And that's 100% true. That's why we say worry about breaking your own records and not worrying about what other people are doing.
Exactly.
And in the realm of not worrying about what other people are doing, don't worry about what other people are thinking. Don't worry about what they think of you.
Yeah. And so this one is I think kind of tough, because like we have, when we are especially when we're starting a business or we're planning a new product launch or we're planning to do something new and exciting, we want to tell everybody about it. We want to be like, this is my plan, I'm going to be successful, it's going to be great. And you know, sometimes that can be really good and sometimes that can be really bad.
Yeah, an example of it being really bad are the doubters. The people that don't think either A, they don't believe highly enough in you, which is a sign that you should probably let them go from your life, or B, they don't believe in the industry that you want to get into. And if you've done your homework and your due diligence, then if you're going into this, you know that there's a way to be successful, and there is plenty of opportunities for you to, you know, become successful and get the clients. So don't listen to the naysayers. That's one big example of this.
Yeah, and you know, the one that comes to my mind is the restaurant industry. So few people know, Rodney knows, like one of my big dreams is I want to open up this, basically it's a restaurant, and I have this huge plan for it, and I've told very few people about it. Now I'm telling everybody, but generally speaking. And you know, when I look into the restaurant industry, it's like, 4 in 5 restaurants like close down, fail within a year. And it's, you know, the percentage after 5 years is even higher. So like, if I were a smart person, I would look at that and probably be like, maybe not go into the restaurant industry. But if I know what I'm selling and I know my product and I know my customer base and I've done the research, then maybe it is an industry that I want to go into. You know, you have to be able to do the research, understand what the market that you're going into, and make the plans for success that are going to work for you.
Absolutely.
In any industry. And there are certain people that I have strategically not told about these plans for exactly that reason, because they're the ones that are going to be throwing these, every restaurant except for one fails every year, you know.
I mean, and then when it comes to restaurants, you got to think this is literally the most basic of human needs. Everyone has to eat. So if your restaurant is not being successful, then you got to really evaluate, because ironically, like Janine said, you know, only 1 out of every 5 businesses makes it past their restaurant businesses make it past their first year. And the main reason for that is it takes a lot of capital to get a restaurant business started, and you don't really get a whole lot of that profit back at first, and it takes time and diligence to get through that first year. But this is, like I said, it's the most basic of human needs. We all need to eat, so there is ways to be successful, but you don't want to, like Janine said, announce your plan for a new business, for a career, with those that aren't going to be supportive of you, because that immediately, if you're talking to people who are going to be a naysayer for you, their doubt might just seep in. It might seep into your mind and give you self-doubt. If they have doubt in you and they're very adamant about telling you, you know, it's not good for your mental health going into this. making it public like welcomes those skeptics and the skepticism and the negativity, and it just puts up more mental hurdles and blocks for you to overcome along your journey.
And sometimes these people aren't even doing it on purpose. Like they aren't like actively trying to make you doubt yourself or not do your thing.
In fact, usually they're trying to protect you. They're trying to protect you from the struggle.
Or it's just passive conversation. Like, for example, I had a friend that after I quit my job and started doing this with you full time, maybe a month or two afterwards, she commented and she's like, "Oh, so how's your little business thing going?" And I'm like, "Little business thing? That's, a little rude." Derogatory, yeah. She didn't mean it that way whatsoever, but that's how she said it. And I was like, okay, yeah, thanks. So, it at some point people are gonna know, obviously, but bringing this back to like how it's 10 years in the making, the people that you're like, oh my god, they're an overnight success, like they just came on the scene and they're huge and everybody knows them. They didn't come rolling out being, wake up yesterday and decide that, oh, I'm going to be a success. I'm a success. That's not how it works.
Yeah, it takes a lot of hard work in the planning phases, in the product development, and whether it's the planning, the product development, the product acquisition, if you're going to be selling someone else's product, the licensing, the layout, the building planning, whatever it is, there's like a lot of hours that goes into just being able to launch a business or a storefront. I mean, there's so much. It's never going to be overnight.
And then even on top of that, like the people that we see in the media and stuff like that, like they didn't, say they did the 5 years and they launched their business and they're doing really well. Well, now it takes another 5 years for them to earn that notoriety and earn that namesake and earn that publicity that, they didn't have before, to earn that recognition and be thought of as a thought leader or as a business leader. It's a process, and it's not just in making the business. It's in making your business, doing it well, and then talking to people about it.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, you really want to think carefully about who you're going to discuss your business plans with. This may be a potential business partner, but I would highly recommend to only discuss your plans for the future when it comes to launching a business with people who have just as much hustle and dedication and determination to be successful as you do. Because those are the people that they believe in themselves, and they're going to believe in you because they're in the exact same boat, that they believe that it's possible to be successful. They believe that it's possible to start a brand new business because they're the ones that want to hustle and do the exact same thing. So they're the ones that you can have in your corner and learn from each other, and really become success stories. Even if your paths and journeys and success don't overlap or intertwine with one another, but you can both mutually support each other in your own journeys. And for those, like I said, that aren't going to be supportive of you in your journey, allow your success to speak for itself. Invite them to your 5-year or 10-year anniversary party of your business, and let it speak for you. Let it speak for itself. When you buy that nice house, when you buy that brand new Mercedes, whatever it is, whatever your why is that you're making money for, when you're able to afford that, let that success speak for itself. And then those naysayers won't have anything to say because they're going to be jealous, and then they're going to be talking that you're just money hungry, or you're all about business, and they're going to start making excuses. And that's why you don't want those people in your life. that's why we highly, highly recommend that you don't share your plans with everyone. Keep it close to the chest sometimes.
Absolutely. So, speaking of, our plan, right? Like, we have this business idea, or maybe we've already launched a business idea and we're moving on, we're developing, we're growing. We tend to overestimate what we can do in a month or in a short period of time, and underestimate what we can accomplish over a long period of time with consistent, dedicated, and focused effort. What do you think?
I completely agree. And the biggest example, and the one we see most often, is with weight loss. We often think about losing 15 pounds in 30 days in order to achieve and obtain that. We have to put our body and our mind under intense stress. And oftentimes, if we even obtain that goal, it's not likely that we're going to sustain it. But if we choose to lose 100 pounds over 2 years, you're already methodically thinking about your strategy and how this is going to be a 2-year game plan. You are thinking in the long term instead of in a short 30-day, I'm going to lose 15 pounds in 30 days, because then it's, what do you do on day 31? If you accomplished your goal, you're going to celebrate.
Yay!
You're going to have that slice of cake.
I mean, I like cake, but actually I like cheesecake. But the point is like, if I lose 15 pounds in 30 days, I'm like, okay, great. I've taken an extreme measure to reach a goal that is now not sustainable because I didn't teach myself the habits that are going to keep it proper, that are going to keep it off, that are going to help me maybe continue to lose weight or keep off the weight or change my habits.
And probably all you've done is drastically altered your diet and exercise routine to, like we said, an unsustainable level. You've completely cut out carbs, you completely did this, you increased your cardio at the gym from 0 hours a week to 20 hours a week, and all of a sudden the weight is just melted off, and those first 5 to 10 pounds are mostly water weight anyways, because you weren't doing anything or very little before, and now all of a sudden you're going to put on that weight. And business is the same way. If we start making our plans about we're going to make this record of sales and this much in our first month and our first quarter, and you're not really looking at the long term, you can burn yourself out in the same way you do in fitness. You burn yourself out of eating spinach and kale salads and not having any of the stuff that you enjoy. But when you plan it out for, like in the weight loss example, a 2-year period, in order to sustain something over a 2-year period, a plan, a goal, you're measuring it out, you're coming up with a game plan and an action, and taking action in ways that are going to be sustainable over those 2 years. And if you do anything for 2 years, this is now your life.
It's likely to become habit. You're not even going to be thinking about it anymore. So like, when you build your shopping list, instead of throwing on chips, you're throwing on kale's gross, carrots. Your subconscious is starting to take over, and it's also a much healthier way to do it. It's less stressful. It's less, you're putting less pressure on yourself to, have this amazing like overnight transformation, right? And same thing with business. Like you have a business plan and you're going to launch your business and it's going to be an overnight success, and 3 months later you're barely in the black, or maybe you're not even in the black yet. Are you a failure? No, you just haven't given yourself enough time to properly meet success.
And I'd like to just add here, since we mentioned weight loss, a healthy lifestyle as far as your diet and exercise is also key to your business. If you're not healthy as an individual, you are not going to be able to put in those hours and lift that product and talk to people in your business. Yeah, you can still be successful. We're not saying that if you have a little extra weight you can't be successful. But what I am saying is that you have to not only plan your business for the next 30 years, you need to plan what your life is going to look like for the next 30 years. And you want to be able to make it to retirement with a good heart, a good liver, good kidneys, good brain. You want to be healthy. And after all, I mean, if you end up dead, you're out of business. You can't you can't run a business from the ground. So you want to make sure you're maintaining a healthy lifestyle as far as your diet and exercise goes, so that you can maintain a healthy business attitude. Because a healthy diet and exercise is going to do so much for your mental capacity as well, not just your physical, that it can really affect and influence the way you make decisions, and making the right ones for the business is crucial.
Yep. And if you're hungry all the time, if you're hungry all the time, you're not going to be making good decisions, because you're going to be focused on food and not on what you need to be focused on. Just saying.
So relating back to business, having a 5-year plan and continuing to evolve that plan as you go allows you to be present in the moment while also keeping a focus on the future. One foot in the present. Excuse me. Take it away.
You have one foot in the present and one foot in the future. So you know what's going on now, and you can plan for how you want it to look tomorrow.
Yeah, I was actually talking with a client yesterday, and he's just launching a brand new business with a couple of business partners, and they're super excited about it. They haven't even had their opening day yet, but they're concerned and questioning about what happens 6 months from now. And while it's great to have that plan and start thinking about that, they're really, in a way, taking that one foot out of the present. And you got to really focus on the present. Hey, one step at a time. Don't put the cart before the horse, so to speak. You got to get to that point first. Focus on what you need to focus on right now, having that long-term goal in mind, but don't live in the future, because if you're making decisions for today like you're already at that point in the future, you are going to make rash decisions that might end up costing you dearly.
I heard a quote recently, and I don't remember where I saw it or heard it, but it's very relevant. It's basically saying that when you live in the future, you're giving yourself stress. When you live in the past, you're giving yourself anxiety. Live in the present, and you'll be okay, right? So basically what we're saying is when you're focused on the present and what you need to do today, it's to guide you to where you need to be in 6 months or a year. And those things can change too. If something happens today that you weren't expecting to happen, that could have a domino effect on the next 6 to 12 months or 5 years or whatever it is, that's okay. The future can change. The future is malleable, right?
The future is going to change.
Yeah, and your plan for the future is going to change, right? 5 years ago, I had no idea that I'd be sitting here making a podcast about and for our business. That wasn't in my plan. And
I'd like to just touch on, you mentioned living in the past. That can also give you a lot of regret and depression, depending on what you're focusing on in the past. If you're focusing on a mistake that you feel that you made, a wrong turn that you made, that if you're focusing on that, you might end up having fear of taking the next step now because you're afraid of repeating the same mistake. You go through life and things don't always go as planned, but you simply have to find the opportunity in that mistake, in that misstep, to learn and grow. And now that you have a new set of skills and knowledge based on what your past experience has been, use that to focus on your present and make the good decisions. Don't dwell on the past. Use it to reflect on and learn from, but don't dwell on it. If you dwell on it, you're going to end up thinking about the things that went wrong and having those regrets and depression, and that's not going to help you either. Like you said, don't dwell in the past. Don't stay in the future. Stay in the present with a mind towards the future, remembering where you've been so that you can learn from that. You have to keep everything kind of in focus on the present.
It reminds me of Lion King when Timon and Pumbaa are talking to baby Simba, and I'm going to butcher this, but he says something about, like, when the past turns its back on you, you turn your back on the... No, that's not...
No, that's completely wrong. But that's okay. I don't want to butcher it either.
I'm going to look it up.
He says, when life turns its back on you, or when the world turns its back on you, you turn your back on the world. That's
Okay,
not what we're talking about
saying.
at all. But he does say something along the lines of the past is behind you.
Hold on, I'm looking it up.
Hold on. We're looking it up right now.
Oh. Okay, so I found it. It is from Rafiki, and he says, the past can hurt, but the way I see it, you can either run from it or learn from it. And running from it is living in the past because you're constantly thinking about it, or you can learn from it, you understand what happened, and you move forward.
And in that movie's case, running from it meant literally hiding from the past. He refused to confront it, and even though in that movie Simba refused to face it, he was dwelling on it at all times, focused on it, judging himself based off of the actions from when he was a child. A lot of Disney movies have an immense amount of knowledge in them to teach children watching these valuable life lessons, many of which go over their head as children, but as you rewatch them as an adult or think about them, you learn how all of this stuff applies, how to deal with loss of a loved one, how to overcome challenges and adversity, how to stand up for yourself, how to overcome challenges, both physical and mental.
So basically what we're saying is go watch some Disney movies.
Yes, that's what we're taking from this episode. If anything else, go rewatch your favorite childhood movies.
And find out what the moral of the story is.
All right, back on topic. So we're talking about the overnight success and how it's really a 10-year journey. Like we mentioned earlier, the journey is so much more in depth. When you see someone who is successful, you don't know what hardships they've been through already. You don't know the sleepless nights it took, the money, the building of, finding investors, building of capital, buying product and equipment, maybe buying used equipment and having to refurbish it themselves, and then they're building their product and they're slowly starting to sell. And guess what? 9 times out of 10, every new business's very first sale is to their mother.
Really?
Really.
I did not know that.
Your very first customer and like the one standing at the door for your ribbon cutting ceremony is usually a parent. I know I used to own a dry cleaning business, and my mother was literally my very first customer.
Oh, I love that.
So, 9 times out of 10, your sales are very slow and low at first, and you're not even known. Nobody even knows about you in the community. Even if you've tried to put out some advertising, it's a long process to get to being successful, especially if you started out taking out a business loan or having investors that you have to pay back. These things are taking out of your bottom line. They're taking out of your profits for oftentimes the first several years in order to pay them back, and that's if you're successful with your business. And then you start to make a profit. So it can be a real struggle. You're not going to be successful overnight. And even if you think you are, and you've started to earn some equity in your business, reinvest those profits. I can't stress enough how reinvesting into your business is so crucial. Don't go taking your profits and buying an expensive car that you don't need or can't really afford and that you're going to be making payments on. Try not to take out loans.
Yeah, I try to think of it as my company's money is not my money.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it all starts with acquiring a vast sum of knowledge. You might have thought I was going to say money there, but knowledge is a far greater resource than money. Money is fickle. Money can come and go, and it will come and go. But the knowledge that you've acquired cannot be taken from you by anyone or anything for any reason, unless, God forbid, you have a stroke.
Yeah. Or some other kind of brain damage.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that you need a formal education. Like we opened up this podcast, we mentioned that we are very adamant about helping out blue-collar business owners, and not just blue-collar business owners, but blue-collar workers. We want to help bring to light not only our country's need for blue-collar workers and businesses, but also the benefit to having that experience and that knowledge, just even for yourself.
And the amount of opportunity that comes with being a blue-collar worker.
Absolutely.
Or a business owner.
So a formal education can be a great benefit to you, but it doesn't mean that you're going to be successful. Having that formal education, that degree, is not a guaranteed ticket to success. It can and will help you, but it is absolutely not necessary. You don't have to go through a 4-year or 6-year degree program. If you want to go back to school later in life, believe me, it's to your benefit. It has to be your choice and have a reason in mind. Don't just feel like you have to do it in order to do it. And if you don't have it, don't feel like that's going to hold you back from success. Many people out there have become successful without having a college degree. So knowledge means taking every opportunity to learn and apply what you have learned through experience, through mentorship, through observations, learning what works and what doesn't work by putting it into practice.
Yep, and doing it every single day. And you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days. And you're going to have days where you think it's never going to work, and you're going to have days where you're going to want to give up and quit. But if you're constantly learning and you're constantly a student, and I've heard people call this being a student of the world, then you're going to make it. It's going to take a while, because like I said, the whole topic of this podcast, there's no such thing as an overnight success. But if you're constantly learning and developing, you're going to be able to apply that back to your business, apply that back to whatever it is that you're doing, and that is going to lead you to success.
Yeah, don't quit on your dreams. There's, like Janine said, there's going to be bad days. There's going to be times where you just want to give up and you want to quit and you want to just go do something where you have a safe, steady flow of income and just sell yourself out on your dreams. Don't do it. You're going to live with so much regret because, like we said, you don't want to dwell on the past. But if you quit on yourself, if you quit on your dreams, that's what's going to monopolize your brain's thinking power for the next few decades to come. You're going to just dwell on, what did I do? Why did I quit? I should have kept with it. Don't give up on your dreams. The greatest success comes from working through the challenges, through the struggle, through the hardships and adversities that life throws at us. Our greatest accomplishments come out of our most difficult times.
Yep. And, sometimes it takes failing a couple times before being successful, and that's okay. Some of the biggest companies that we know have failed miserably before becoming successful. We have Apple and Steve Jobs. We have Walt Disney and the Walt Disney Company, and Harley Davidson at Harley Davidson, right?
Well,
it's
okay.
2 people, but
it's actually 5.
Okay.
So, and just a quick background, Harley Davidson is not a single individual, for those of you who don't know. There were the Harley brothers, there was 4 of them, and there was a gentleman, I can't remember his first name at the moment, but his last name was Davidson. That's where Harley Davidson comes from. It was 5 guys that started the company, and they went through so many challenges over the years, and they had a huge amount of success going into World War II because the federal government basically gave them a blank check to make them motorcycles, or motorbikes as they were called at the time, for the soldiers in combat. And we actually visited the Harley Davidson Museum back in last month, the first weekend in June. We actually went to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and visited the Harley Davidson Museum and took the tour, and learned that in the late 80s and 90s, Harley Davidson, or late 80s into the early 90s, Harley Davidson went through a lot of struggle, in fact, and they sold the families that still own the business from the original founders. Those families had to sell the business, and then they didn't like what had happened, and they ended up buying it back, but at a risk of bankruptcy.
And didn't they actually file bankruptcy at one point?
So they were actually, literally, the story we heard while we were at the museum was that it was like Christmas or New Year's Eve, and they had to decide and figure out whether or not. So they had everything lined up, and they either had to go public with the company, or they had to file bankruptcy. It was literally like do or die time, and they were waiting on the final approval to go public in order by midnight, in order to not have to file Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And it came through, and Harley Davidson became a publicly traded company on January 1st of that following year, and they signed all the paperwork, and everything has been amazing for Harley Davidson since then. They have grown exponentially, and it's all because they're passionate, loyal riders, followers of their business are now their owners.
Yep.
So it's just, it goes to show that even the biggest brand names you see out there have absolutely faced struggle, and they did not become the biggest names out there overnight.
And for, I threw out Steve Jobs and Walt Disney. I feel like Steve Jobs' story is pretty well known now, especially since there's a couple movies about him. But he was literally kicked out of the company that he founded, and then he went and founded Pixar, and then they brought him back because once they kicked him out, Apple was failing. They weren't reinventing themselves as they were so well known to do at the time, and their stock prices were falling, and I think they were publicly traded at the time. Anyways, their sales were falling. They were not doing good, so they brought him back in, and all of a sudden the company becomes a success again, right? And then with Pixar, you know, he went and founded Pixar, and I don't think Pixar really has much of a failure to success story, except that they were developing so much new technology to create animated stories that they caught the eye of the Walt Disney Company.
Bob Iger.
Of Bob Iger, exactly. And basically went through this whole process for the Walt Disney Company to purchase Pixar for that technology, because at the time, Walt Disney Animation Studios, which does a lot of our favorite animated Disney movies,
as I think we've mentioned in this
a little
podcast.
bit before. But I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
But the Walt Disney Animation Studios was failing at the time. They had released, this was around the times Pixar launched Toy Story, which was one of Pixar's biggest movies, even to this day. And at the same time, I can't remember which Disney movies came out, but they were all considered an absolute fail. Now, we would look at them and be like, that's a classic, like, that didn't fail, but it did by
box office
standards, right? But the fail to success story of Walt Disney isn't even in modern times. It's back when Walt Disney Animation first started, and Walt Disney he created Mickey Mouse, and he was looking for investors so that he could create this cartoon. And Walt Disney Company actually either filed for bankruptcy or almost filed for bankruptcy.
They did.
I can't remember which it is.
They did file for bankruptcy.
And it was actually Walt Disney's brother Roy who came in and saved it, because he was really the business guy. So when Walt Disney himself realized, I'm not a business person, I'm an animator, I'm a cartoonist, my brother Roy is the business person, and Roy came in and ran the behind the scenes business. That's when Walt Disney Company started to thrive.
And and with Pixar, and when the Walt Disney Company purchased Pixar, Pixar was working at a pace where they were only putting out one movie every 1 to 2 years. And Disney looked at it like, well, we want their technology as far as the animation goes, in order to save the Walt Disney Animation Company, because Walt Disney Company was doing great in their other division, in the parks divisions and everything, but what really started their company, the animation, was failing in comparison to movies like Pixar, or movies like Toy Story that were coming out from Pixar. But Pixar didn't have the people or the money to scale it to where they could put out more movies faster. And that was one of the things that Bob Iger had to promise Steve Jobs, that Disney wasn't going to come in and turn Pixar into Disney, that Pixar would be able to maintain its own culture and its own identity and continue operating the way they have. And Bob Iger with Disney completely agreed, and then they ended up coming in and keeping all of the same people and the same way in the community, and they just scaled it. They put Disney money behind it, and they scaled it to where they could start really cranking out some movies that we've all grown to love. So this is the end of our podcast for, overnight success. Don't feel like you have to become an overnight success, because it's not an actual thing. We think of it as overnight success because all of a sudden we see people on TV or social media and they're just everywhere. But that's only because they just came on your radar after they put in years of hard work to become successful the way they are. So don't hate on yourself.
Exactly. Give yourself breathing room. Give yourself time. Make sure your 5-year plan can be accomplished in 5-year plan. Make sure it's realistic, right? You should be pushing your boundaries, but it should also be obtainable. And in coaching, don't they have this thing about setting goals? Like, you set 3 goals instead of
Absolutely. There's the ideal goal, which is what you would like to hit. There's the acceptable minimum, and there's that somewhere in between. So if everything goes well, that goal, that ideal goal, is what you're pushing for. It's really a bit of a stretch, and then there's that middle goal that, you know, this is still a success, just not as much as we would have liked. And then there's the minimum goal, and this is basically the minimum entry for success. So you're shooting for that high point, knowing that it's almost unrealistic.
Mm-hmm.
And when you fall a little short, you're still counting yourself as a success. So,
and give yourself time to do it.
Yeah, it's not going to happen in a month. It's not going to happen in a year. It's going to be several years of small little steps. You're going to come in 5 years from now and look back and just marvel at what you have accomplished. Marvel's actually another one of those good success stories.
Yep.
That they went through trials and tribulations as far as Marvel films go.
Yep.
They ended up selling off, a lot of people know this, but they ended up selling off characters like Spider-Man. They sold the rights to Spider-Man to Sony,
And they're still trying to get it back.
Still trying to get it back. They sold X-Men and the Fantastic Four over to Fox, just so that they could keep themselves afloat. You know, they sold the Hulk to Universal Studios. You know, so there's, you know, Marvel's another one of those things. And now look at it, it's also owned by Disney, but it's one of the biggest independent film studios out there. Marvel Studios is so massive.
It's not independent anymore because it's owned by Disney, but
it's not independent anymore. But I mean, as far as putting out their own product,
right.
It is one of the biggest out there in the world, if not the absolute biggest. So, but they had struggles. I mean, we've all seen some bad Marvel movies in the past, especially like in the 90s and stuff, and they tried to do some different movies, but everything is now on the up and up for them.
The one about the big green giant guy is the Hulk. Comes to mind. Those were terrible.
Well, and a lot of people believe that the only thing that kept them afloat in the late 90s was Blade with Wesley Snipes, because Blade is a Marvel character.
I always forget that.
Yeah.
So,
but that's their thing. So don't, think about the biggest brand names that you know out there, and if they're one of your favorite brands, I encourage you to do some history, do some research into them, and see, just how many hardships and struggles they had. I bet you'd be surprised at the struggles that a lot of these big businesses that are now big businesses, the struggles that they faced in their first decade.
Or even your favorite the people that you look up to, like the guy that owns Virgin. Virgin both was an epic fail, and I can't remember his name to say. Branson, yes. He also had a major failure, and now he's bigger than big, right? So, if you can think of a person you look up to, go look up to see how they failed and how they overcame it, because it's an MBA in a website, basically.
Yeah, Richard Branson is another one of those big ones. So I will leave you with Rodney's rules of the day, and that is: be kind to yourself. Do not judge yourself based on what happened yesterday. Learn from it. If it was a bad day, learn what went wrong to make tomorrow a better day. If it was a good day, learn what went right so you can duplicate it and multiply it tomorrow. There's no opportunity that you cannot learn, or there's no event that happens that you cannot learn from. Everything, good or bad, has a lesson in it, If you just take the time to look into it, you will find the lesson and you will be able to become better for it.
Amen.
You can follow us on Instagram at Diorio Coaching.
That's DEIORIO Coaching.
You can also see us on Facebook at the same
Diorio Coaching.
And if you'd like, you can go directly to our website, dioriocoaching.com. You can reach out to us, shoot us an email. If you would like to schedule a free consultation, I highly encourage you to do that.
Yep, you can schedule it right from our website or give us an email. We're also on LinkedIn.
We are.
Also at Diorio Coaching, or you can look up either one of us. Just send us a note and be like, hey, heard your podcast, would love to connect, and we'll be happy to do that.
If you could, give this podcast a thumbs up wherever you're listening to it. Leave it a review. We love the feedback, and we want to keep producing more of these for you.
Yep.
And go ahead.
I was going to say, and if you're on Anchor, you can actually send us a voice note yourself, and we'll get it straight here. And if you want to support the podcast, you guys can do that too.
And if you are a small business owner and you're going to be at the Chicago Small Business Expo that's at the end of August, guess what? We're also going to be there. We're going to be browsing the aisles and talking to people and sharing ideas and really supporting you, America's small business owners, and all that you do. We are there for you. So we hope to see you there in person.
And if you're going to be there, shoot us a note, let us know, and we can meet up for coffee or a drink or something and chit-chat. Get to know each other.
Absolutely. With that, I hope you all have an amazing day. Keep it positive. Keep focused. Don't lose sight of your why, and have a blessed day.
Bye, everyone.